Hi, my name is Lena. I am 18 years old. I live in California and I have Tourette syndrome. I was diagnosed when I was 12, and so it was kind of a shock for both my parents and I, because the number one thing about Tourette syndrome is that this is something that I am going to have for the rest of my life, This isn't just something that's going to go away in a year, or it's not just like a habit or phase I'm going through. This is something that I'm going to have to deal with for not only the rest of my life, but it's potentially something that I could give to my future children. And it was just a very, very difficult thing to understand and realize and to hear. I didn't like to tell anyone, because I was so afraid of saying it out loud. I was so afraid of, actually having the realization that I did have Tourette syndrome. Just when you think about it and when you do talk about it, it becomes all more real. It was very, very difficult for me growing up because I did not know anyone else with Tourette syndrome. I did not meet another kid with Tourette syndrome until I was 16 or 17, I think. And so I felt very alone. I did have tics from like the age of 7, but I wasn't diagnosed until I was 12. And so for that period of time, elementary, and then going into middle school, I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I didn't know why I had, to do these things. I didn't know why my body felt like moving. I didn't know why I felt like saying things or like making weird noises, or I didn't know why. And so it was very difficult overcoming that, and at the same point dealing with other kids' reactions to it. All the boys in my middle school would tease me about it, and that was a little bit rough, but boys can be really mean. I didn't have to deal with mean girls until I got to high school. A lot of people were saying that I was on drugs, and they called me twitchy, and a whole group of kids would stare at me. In one of my classes, it was math class, and they would all turn around and all stare at me until I twitched. And I would try my best not to, but when I finally just couldn't hold it in anymore, they would all bust out laughing, and, been made fun of multiple times in front of many classes. I've had things thrown at me. I've been told to shut up and go outside. Just, kids are brutal, man. I held my tics back everywhere I went, for the most part. I was very scared to let people know who I was and what I had. I was very scared that I would be even more teased than I was already teased in high school. And so basically in school, everywhere, I would hold my tics. Obviously, Tourette syndrome can't be held back for, my entire life, so I had to tic. But when I could, I would hold them back, even though it makes you so tense, and it, ruins your focus on anything else because you're just focusing on not ticking, and it makes you sore because I couldn't, I was so tense, and so I wouldn't be able to, wake up or like do things. At the moment, I have quite a few tics, considering that I did just graduate high school, and so it's kind of like a new environment I'm going into. I just got a job, and I'm going to be starting college soon, and so I'm a little bit stressed out at the moment. The tics that I do have right now, I have hand tics where I pop my fingers, kind of like that, in all of them, and I crack my wrists and I crack my knuckles. I do that to my shoulders. I kind of roll them back, and I go like that with my neck. I don't really know what that is. I roll my eyes back into my head. I kind of set my jaw back a little bit. The one vocal tic that I do have, it sounds differently because I can suppress it, or I can make it come out differently if that's like what feels right. It sounds like that. It's really high pitched, and when I want to try to hide it more, I go like I close my mouth. It comes out sounding more like a cough, or like a cover-up of a sneeze. And then I blow out of my nose very quickly, and sometimes I have all of them combined, and so it's just a lot to deal with. When I was a child, I did have a very small case of OCD. I wasn't diagnosed like right then, because I was diagnosed when I was 12 with Tourette syndrome, and so they also told me, like when I talked to them about basically my life history, that I could have had OCD when I was little, but it's faded off, or it just become not as dominant now when I'm older. But it was simple things like I had to touch the same spot, and then when I touched something like my hairbrush, I had to smell my fingers, or like stepping on the same sidewalk crack as my other foot. If like my left foot did, then I had to step on it with my right foot. And so I did have that, but it's kind of faded off as I've become older, and Tourette's is kind of like the main thing that I do have. But I do have very high anxiety. I actually am taking medication at the moment for anxiety and not being able to sleep. I have panic attacks and very, very bad intrusive thoughts. And so that's something that kind of comes along with the whole neurological disorders. Intrusive thoughts, a very, very difficult thing to live with. It's like obsessive thoughts about something absolutely horrible, and you can't really control them. You just think about them and think about them. It's just like a scenario or a situation that goes in place through your mind, and it's horrifying sometimes when I think about horrible, horrible things, and I just can't stop it and I can't help it. I try to think that I am going to overcome this. Even though it's not something that I could ever change about myself, like I'm always going to have Tourette syndrome, I can overcome the feeling of being disappointed that I was born this way, or being sad that I have to tick and I can't be like the other normal kids, you know? Having Tourette syndrome makes you a very, very strong person. You have to deal with others' opinions about you over something that you cannot control, over something that you were born with. And so dealing with that and learning from that just makes you into a stronger person altogether. Society and the media has warped this disorder into something that less than 10% of people with Tourette syndrome actually have. Coprolalia, which is swearing and shouting out words, it's, you know, that's what people think when they think of Tourette syndrome. I've had so many different conversations with, you know, people I very first meet who find out that I have it, that no, Tourette syndrome isn't just that. And even if it is, we can't help it, you know? It's something that we're born with. It's something that's embedded into our brain. I've definitely grown. I have learned as a person that because I was born with this, it is my struggle. It is something that I have learned from. It is something that I have grown from. I was put on this earth to help others, and I was put on this earth to love and to realize and to grow. And so, that being said, having Tourette syndrome has changed me as a person, because I believe that if I didn't have it, I would definitely be a lot different. I wouldn't be as compassionate, I wouldn't be as loving towards others, and I wouldn't try to understand people who, you know, are not easily understood. I believe that this is my struggle, but it's definitely something that has made me into the person that I am today, and I kind of like that.